Hello everyone, my name is Kyle Johnson and today we'll be exploring the question of is the implementation of the NSA and PRISM ethical? So first I'll be giving you some context. What is the NSA? The NSA, or the National Security Agency, was founded initially on May 20th, 1949 under a different name, the Armed Forces Security Agency, or the AFSA. Originally, the initial mission for this organization was to organize communication between defense agencies such as the FBI, the CIA, and the Department of Defense. However, on November 4th, 1952, the Secretary of Defense at the time, Robert A. Leavitt, established the NSA with the task of being responsible of all communication intelligence. Something to note, when the NSA was initially created, it was a classified agency, so no one in the public knew of the creation of the agency or what it was. The NSA really began to grow after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. After the attacks, George Bush, the president at the time, approved the Patriot Act passed by Congress, which allowed the collection of phone record metadata from Verizon, AT&T, and Sprint. The NSA would continue to grow in 2006 and 2007 and beyond as more acts and amendments were passed. In 2006 and 2007 specifically, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act allowed for the NSA to collect metadata and content from tech companies like Facebook, Apple, Google, Microsoft, and AOL. They would collect things like search data, emails, and more. PRISM is a program enacted by the NSA that is the means of collecting the content and metadata from big tech companies. The NSA is allowed by the jurisdiction of a secret court called the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court to be given warrants under the Fourth Amendment to collect and store information of non-citizens. However, if information linked to a citizen is found, they are allowed to keep that data for up to 5 years. This short slide is just a visual representation of how the big tech companies interact with the NSA and other intelligence agencies within the US government. You can see up at the top you've got big tech companies like Verizon and Google that provide different types of data such as metadata and content to the NSA, and how they send that information and what acts cause that information to be sent. You can also see at the bottom how PRISM interacts directly with NSA. So this slide is just a short technical background on content versus metadata. So content is exactly what it sounds like. The contents of email, search history, private messages, etc. So things like your Facebook messages, your Google search history, your Hotmail email, all these things stored on private company sites can be accessed by the NSA. Metadata is a little different. Metadata, yes, is provided to the NSA, but it does not provide the content of your emails or your search history. However, it does provide things like IP addresses, geolocation, duration of transmission, time of transmission, all these important things that the NSA and other intelligence agencies use to create a paper trail or connect individuals together. So now that we've been given some context on the NSA, PRISM, and how they interact with companies and with the citizens, we will begin to explore the ethics behind it. Obviously the involved parties are the NSA and the US government, private tech companies, and citizens. So first we'll explore the responsibilities of the citizens and how they interact with the US government and the private tech companies. First, citizens must trust that the intention of the NSA and the US government is to keep the well-beings of the citizens as their #1 priority. It's important to be skeptical of the government, but never negligent. Also, it's important that the citizens openly criticize and voice their opinions towards procedures that the government takes. This way the government can adapt their policies and overall just create a better government. Citizens also need to actively participate in elections and polls so that correct officials and what the population believes is the correct path can be taken. Citizens' responsibilities to private tech companies are to provide revenue for required services or provide means of revenue. So things like Facebook, they have ads on their website. So it's important that citizens don't use things like ad block frequently to make sure that these companies can stay running. Citizens should also criticize and have open opinions towards these companies so they can create a higher level product as well. But also participating in the market in ways that the company can see as well. So if you have an issue with Instagram or Twitter, then you can boycott Instagram or Twitter, and showing that change in the market will force the company to adapt to meet your needs. So next we'll be exploring the responsibilities of the private tech companies. So the responsibilities the private tech company has to the NSA and the US government is for one, to report any criminal activities that their service could be used for or is being used for, and report any breaches of security. They also have responsibilities to the citizen, one, to provide a secure and marketable platform for the citizen to use, and also to protect and respect the privacy of its users. These apps and these private tech companies can generate a lot of data on these users, so it's important to make sure that the data is safe. They also need to adapt to market trends to continue to develop the best product possible. So when Facebook or Twitter sees that boycott or sees a drop in users, they should adapt to make a better product. So next is the responsibilities that the NSA and the U.S. government has. So firstly, to their citizens, they must respect the Fourth Amendment right to properly obtain a warrant before seizing any information. They must, two, secure the liberties of the citizens before securing the citizens themselves. This means protecting the privacy and the well-being of the individuals first before overreaching to protect their security. And they also must adapt policy to reflect the wishes of their citizens. And then to the private tech companies, first they must help keep U.S. tech infrastructure safe from cyber attacks, and they also should not abuse this information that they receive from tech companies to negatively impact either the service the public tech companies have or the citizens themselves. So next we'll begin the analysis of the benefits of NSA and PRISM. All parties benefit from NSA and PRISM. The citizens benefit from increased security from terrorism and crime. That is the main goal of NSA and PRISM, is to create a foreign intelligence database that connects terrorism and terrorists with these crimes. And then also there's benefits to private tech companies to contribute more to society than their service. That meaning the tech companies can contribute more than like creating a social media or a email platform. They can also contribute to creating a more secure and safe environment for everyone. And then the U.S. government benefits from the NSA and PRISM by being able to better protect the citizens and ensure their well-being, and also the companies and businesses within the U.S. Next is the drawbacks of the implementation of NSA and PRISM. All parties have a negative effect from NSA and PRISM. So for the citizens, their privacy is potentially breached because of a lot of the lack of transparency with NSA and PRISM. We don't really know exactly how much data is being collected and how much of it is being stored, and how much of that is on U.S. citizens. Citizens are also more vulnerable if the NSA is attacked by a foreign nation or a malicious organization because of this collection of information. Their peace of mind is also diminished a bit. Now every time you look at your phone or you use your computer, in the back of your head you might have a thought about how the NSA is collecting this information. For private tech companies, trust in their product is diminished. Now, again, when you use Facebook or your email, you might be thinking of how the government is collecting your logs on your searches or on your personal messages. They are also more vulnerable if a cyber attack is successful, both in their business and in being a target. And then the U.S. government is also a greater target for cyber attacks as well, having this large database of information being collected. Also, people will begin to trust the government a little less. So now we'll enter the negotiation phase of the paramedics ethics analysis. So the most vulnerable party of the three is the citizens. Of course, all parties want more security. However, citizens and companies do not want to give up these liberties for securities. And also the government has an obligation to protect these liberties for citizens and also these companies. Um, the citizens and the government can both agree that anything explicitly public online, such as like your Facebook profile, your LinkedIn profile, things like this, those are completely fair game for government collection or any collection really. Um, while other data, such as like metadata and content, these should always require a transparent warrant for the seizure of this information. So through deontological ethics, we can make a conclusion based on this information, if it's ethically justifiable or not. So first, we can agree that the government's duty is to protect the liberties, rights, and privacy of its citizens and businesses. However, the NSA and PRISM, due to lack of transparency, especially through the collection of this information and the warrants through this secret court, infringe on the Fourth Amendment rights of citizens, along with respecting the privacy of its people. So even though that the NSA and PRISM provide a more secure country, it is not ethically justifiable through deontological ethics. However, things are a bit different with utilitarian ethics. People are more happy when they are in a safe environment, and the NSA and PRISM definitely do provide the country with less terrorist attacks. So the NSA and PRISM definitely do protect the well-being of the overall population, even though some may be negatively affected. So through utilitarian ethics, it is definitely ethically viable. So, in conclusion, utilitarian ethics do justify the current state of security that the NSA and PRISM provide to the country. However, deontological ethics disagree, mostly because of the Fourth Amendment execution and how that is misinterpreted. Deontological ethics also disagree that it is protecting the liberties of the citizens. Overall, the NSA and PRISM are not justifiable because of the vulnerabilities it exposes to the citizens from either cyber attacks from foreign nations, corrupt government officials, or other malicious organizations. So this concludes my presentation. Thank you everyone for coming out. I hope you have a good one.